9 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific for about an hour or 90 minutes each day. Each day we do 3 gun-related topics, do different topics throughout the week. And we are running it live on YouTube. We simulcast it over at gunchannels.com. We once a week or so take the audio and post it on iTunes as a podcast. So we encourage everybody who might be listening to the show now, watching it later on YouTube or listening to it as a podcast, to participate in whatever social media platform it is that you're listening to the show. That helps us know where you are. It also helps the show to get recommended to more listeners, and that is our goal. So our ultimate goal is to have more people listen during the show. So we do appreciate the dozens of people that watch us live. This is kind of a midday evening type of format or time slot. So we do appreciate everybody who tunes in, either after or before work or as work is ending, I guess. And then we also encourage you to let other people who might be on a similar time schedule, who might be interested in our show. Let them know about the live, listening to it live, because really that's a lot of fun for us as hosts. We're not really here just to get famous or to read off a bunch of stuff we wrote. We're here to have a conversation and be part of a conversation with our audience. So we really do appreciate the people that listen to us live. I don't know if we take a break to say that enough. There's 4 hosts. 2 of us are here today. We got Daniel jumping in from Illinois. Thanks for joining.
Glad to be here, and let it just be known that a little bit of fame would be okay.
Okay. And then I'm down here in Arizona. So I don't think anybody else will be joining us today, so it'll just be us. Maybe we'll do like a random Patreon co-host or something.
I like the idea.
Now, today is episode number 327, and we'll be talking about Second Amendment issues. We'll be talking about Tennessee. We'll be talking about good idea, bad idea. Well, that's going to be horrible, which is 2 of us. And then, I don't even know if we're going to do the hashtag Daily Gun Show Showdown, since we usually have at least 3 people to do the judging of your Instagram photos. But before we get into whatever we end up doing, we usually take a break at the beginning of the show and talk about anything that might have happened overnight or anything worth talking about.
What was it? June 6th, 1942 or 43 was the invasion of Normandy. One of the most momentous events in the 20th century to occur, in regards to the scale, the coordination, and the different services that had to work as one to pull it off. Not only did you have different arms of services within a nation, you had multiple nations and different services, multiple navies, multiple air forces, multiple armies, multiple marines.
It was the largest invasion on the earth, right?
Yeah, that's certainly known in written history.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they couldn't have done anything bigger back before they could even write stuff down, unless they just got a hold everybody on the earth together in 2 files. Anyway, it was supposed to be the largest invasion that's ever happened, biggest scale. Yeah, where we thought we were going to talk about that during history, but I guess we're talking about that right at the beginning. So, yeah.
Well, I just want to mention the event, and then we could talk about it in detail later.
All right. Well, I don't know. Okay. So, otherwise, let's see. Matt had a show last night. That's pretty good. Sean Connery was running early morning. I guess he calls it Good Morning Gun Channels earlier today. A lot of people were jumping in and out of that. That's really a fun. From when I'm working on the computer and stuff. Even today, I had to step away a couple of times to take phone calls and stuff. It's way better than listening to the radio. We've mentioned it before, but the long format shows these guys doing the mornings and early afternoons over on Gun Channels, Give it a shot if you haven't listened to it before for getting work done and stuff. I think it's much more productive. You know, I start listening to it, I hear whatever they're talking about, and you know, just the time flies. So good show, and I guess we'll dig into this one. This will be the mediocre show, and then later you'll have some better ones.
Before we keep going, I do have an admin note over on the side, and then we can go ahead and start.
What do you mean, post a link? I don't know what you mean.
You said possible guest.
Oh, I don't know. I guess if somebody wants to be a guest host, raise your hand. Where I guess we're talking off on the side chat here about whether or not we'll open it up. I just don't want to open it up because then we get 6 or 8 people in here chatting about.
Right. I just didn't know if you wanted me to make that happen. Anyway.
All right. So I'm reading the chats here. So I like the idea of the longest day movie of the day. So I'm going to like really quickly do an override because today our movie of the day is Southern Comfort, which I'm sure Z or somebody.
I've never seen.
Nobody was looking at it. Oh, you haven't? I think it's about Nam, like the guys that came home from Nam. But here or there, it's not World War II. And the longest day is the day today. So I guess we'll get into Second Amendment issues right away. Just dig right in.
Yep. And the question is what would you define as an infringement? And when it comes to things legal, for myself, I like to use the KISS principle, keep it simple. And that is any interference with a human right that I have as a human being. And that it certainly includes the right to defend my own life. You know, whether it's with our fists, a stick, a rock, a bow and arrow, or a firearm, we have the right to defend our lives. That's a human right. It doesn't matter where you were born or when you were born. You have that right.
Okay, you can have a right, and then your right can, get right in the way of somebody else's life, and then your right ends, right? So what would you define as an infringement? I don't know if there's a lawyer. There's got to be a lawyer definition to that, right? But I'm going to say, wouldn't it be your liberty up until it affects somebody else's liberty? Or no, like anything that affects your, okay, how about this? Anything that affects your individual liberty that doesn't affect anybody else's. So anything that gets into the realm of just your own personal liberty and whatever it is that they're dealing with has no influence on anybody else, that's where I consider it an infringement. Now, if it's something like people will go, I have the right to catch all the fish I want because there's a lake in front of me, I can catch all the fish out of it I want, that's natural right. Well, when a whole bunch of people are going to claim ownership of that lake and then they hire somebody to make sure there's fish in it, then I think your liberty to eat as many fish out you want out of somebody else's lake ends, and then somebody else gets to be infringed also, and everybody can be infringed a little bit and there's still a lake left over.
Well, let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit. Whose lake is it?
Oh, I'm assuming it's a state lake, government lake.
Okay, because as an example, out in the West, people used to get rights to land, including water rights. And then the people who were grazing cattle, who had been using that pond or that stream to water their cattle on the way to some distant railroad hookup, suddenly were either charged per head of cattle to water or were denied it entirely.
Well, if you want to go down this rabbit hole, what the hell gives them a right just because they want to have a bunch of cows and walk them that they own the water or the trespass? If they
because
are
the earth was made by either nature, depending on your belief system, or God.
Well, great.
We don't own it. No one owns it.
No one in this country ever stepped foot on, except for a couple of people. No one really stepped foot into where at least where I live and where you live, without a treaty first being signed and the government owning it. So the government owned that land, and they had some kind of agreement where if you walked out there and claimed it and improved it, it was yours. But other than that, just because some guy decides to take a bunch of cows and put them out on land that nobody technically has claimed yet, and then once somebody comes along and claims it and starts to improve it, then why does that guy with the cows get to just walk past with some guy's crops?
But you say the government owns it, and that kind of infers that they bought it, when in fact they never bought it.
Whoa, what are you talking
They
about? We
simply
bought every single. Name one part of land that we took here. We bought everything. We owned.
All of it from the
What?
Indians?
No, we bought our stuff, dude. What are you talking about? We traded and bought. We didn't come over here and just take.
Yes, we did.
All right. Maybe you'd like, even in the first settlements, we were trading to not be killed and trading to own land. And then
Trading to not be killed and trading to be shown, bartering for certain skill sets in the New World is different than owning the land.
well, the Indian, I don't know if we're going to get into some theoretical thing about where the Indians claimed ownership anyway. They basically, we came over here, we were chill and we were okay. And then like France and Spain came in and just took, and then we bought it off of Spain and France. So we didn't take nothing. We bought it all.
So
We're one step removed from all that bad stuff.
but ultimately, even the Indians who were here were simply here first. Even they did not buy it. They simply used it because no one else was using it. And that certainly makes perfect sense.
Well, all right.
I'm just going down the rabbit hole of what is ownership,
I hear you. Okay.
because we're talking about rights.
Okay. Well, again, that started from me talking about a lake. Maybe that was a bad idea, but because that really has nothing to do with gun ownership, I guess. But so infringement on your own rights are when you're minding your business and somebody comes along and says, because I assume or because I think of something, some crazy idea, then now you can't have something that doesn't really bother me. That's where I see an infringement.
So, and I'm just going to play the devil's advocate here for a moment. So let's say that I move into a subdivision and I've been there maybe 6 months, 9 months, whatever. And I'm finally sick and tired of that noise, which is affecting me. It's affecting my peace of mind. It's affecting my
sanity.
my state of mind.
Yeah. So you're saying that the shooting range was there first, or the landowner was there first?
Well, I'm not saying that yet, but let's say I get together several of my neighbors, which also don't happen to like it. At what point does which group trump the other? And I'll let you kind of define that.
I see it happen all the time. The people that are hearing the noise, if the range can't stop their noise, then the people around with probably all do whatever, get the range shut down. Happens all the time, especially when ranges are built outside of town, right? And they're built on cheap, inexpensive, admissible or accessible land that's usually out of town a ways. And then towns grow. And then what happens? The outskirts of town become suburbs, and some portion of town and maybe is fancy, like in Tucson, it's horse properties, and people were buying these little ranches or whatever, and living on the outskirts of town. And they figured out, like, as the range got more and more popular, because all that desert land was now full of houses and horse properties and stuff, more people were going to the range. All of a sudden, this range that had occasional use was getting more and more use. And then after, like 2 minutes after I moved here, they decided to shut it down. It was annoying as shit. But I can understand it. Those houses are worth a lot of money. And, they're just a range out there in the hills making a bunch of noise all day long. I think there's lots of ways you can address that without shutting the range down. But I can understand. I think that is infringement. If somebody's out there making a massive racket and you're trying to enjoy your life, they don't get to just make noise because.
Now, I'm not sure where and you may not have stated this, but did you state in your diatribe there which came first, the subdivision or the gun club?
I think the gun club was first here in Tucson, at least compared to the houses that complained about it eventually.
I mean, in that situation, since they moved in knowing, or they failed to do basic research, why would that be? Why would they be the default winners in that scenario?
Because
caveat emptor, let the buyer beware.
There's times change. Yeah. And when a range gets used a couple of times a day, and then it goes to many times per hour with a standing room only, and all day, all business hours, there's a continual barrage of noise coming out of it. That's different than if they moved in 30 years ago and there was a couple of gunshots during the day.
Times change is the same philosophy and use that the anti-gunners use when they want to open up the second. They say times have changed. The words don't mean the same.
Well, that's different than what I said. I said that things have changed. You're saying that perceptions or things are changed, but all right, whatever. So what you're saying that things can't ever change? We got to wear wigs and shit and those weird shoes all the time?
Well, some things like the word no. In the English language, the word no does not change.
Okay.
I mean, some things are indeed absolute. Shall not be infringed means the same thing today as it meant hundreds of years ago. It has not changed. That's not a gray, those aren't gray words.
Well, all right. So you're talking now about a range being shut down as an infringement on people's ability to own firearms. That's not. It's an infringement on where they can make their noise with their firearms. And that is not a natural right. You don't have a right to piss somebody off. What if it was something else? What if I just had a really loud noisemaker? And for some reason I enjoyed making that noise all the damn time. There's ordinances and stuff.
Then why did you move there?
Well, again, you don't acknowledge that a thing can get more popular and that other sources of recreation get lost. So the more people are concentrated in one thing and things change and now it becomes more noisy. Just like an airport can be more noisy once it gets used more.
So if a guy owns a theater or a venue, and back in the old days, all they played was acoustic instruments, and now all of a sudden people are coming in with electric instruments and big amplifiers. Now you get to shut them down. It's their property, but you get to shut them down because the technology changed and it's louder than it used to be. Is that the case you're trying to make?
I think that happens all the time. Yeah. Look at drive-in movie theaters. They were sitting out there minding their business, and then all of a sudden they were too noisy.
It happening all the time and it being right are not necessarily the same thing. And I guess that's the distinction I'm trying to draw.
Well, again, but the analogy...
Yeah, I don't disagree that it happens.
With the analogy you just said there, the situation you just said there, that was a bar that was at one noise level. Everybody was okay with it, and then they changed and made it way noisier. So that's not necessarily somebody just minding their business and doing their thing. They've now taken a step to make it even louder than it used to be, and now all of a sudden somebody can hear it where they didn't. And if they got a baby, what if they didn't have a baby before? Things change. There is time.
Well, again, guns don't get louder. They have not gotten louder. They could become more numerous unless you suddenly allow cannons on board.
Well, unless somebody starts buying AR pistols and directing the muzzle noise down range.
Oh. Okay, Mr. Devil's Advocate. I think we know where we're going with this one.
But I do think that there's a difference between convenience of shooting at a place for a long time and property values changing, and then the ability to own firearms. We don't own firearms so that we can recreationally shoot, right? I mean, that's just a thing of it. We don't own firearms so that we can train. That's just a thing of it.
By curtailing your ability to use a firearm is infringing upon your right to use it.
There you go. So now you're now snowflake, Mr. Government owes me. You're saying that not only is the right to possess and own, now it's a right to train and
okay.
Use.
There were these simple words. I think there were 3 of them. Shall not be infringed.
All right.
Shall not be infringed.
Again, so you're suggesting that since you own a firearm and you have this inherent right, in the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of the United States, Second Amendment, provides that nothing can infringe on your right to own that firearm, then you're extrapolating that out to, and I can use my firearm however I want, no matter if it annoys other people or not. I mean, that's we know that there's a line drawn at murder, and we know there's a line drawn at harassment and brandishing in most states and threatening. So those are an individual's inherent right to own a firearm that's infringed because it's stepped on somebody else's liberty. Why is
your right to use it legally? And murder is not legal.
Correct. But is it okay?
Making noise is not inherently illegal.
Making noise is definitely illegal in any municipality.
If I go outside and yell, that is not inherently illegal.
Okay, there
Just
are
because
noise.
I made noise.
There are noise limitations in most municipalities, and then I don't know what they're like in counties where most rural land is going to be. But again, I suspect if you start making too much of a ruckus, somebody's going to be annoyed about it, and somebody's going to come out and wonder what the hell you're doing.
I'm enjoying my freedom. That's what I'm doing.
So I think the Hearing Protection Act would solve all of Dano's issues really quick. Well, Cycle, you wanted to jump in, and now we're putting you in a spot. What would you define as infringement?
So my definition of infringement is more the acquisition and ability to carry outside the home. So I should be able to acquire firearms, and I should be able to carry those firearms outside the home for my own personal protection. And any laws that are passed that stop me from acquiring firearms or carrying them outside the home, I consider an infringement.
So do you also then have the right to defend your own life?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I can't defend my life if I can't carry.
No, that's a lot of dead air. So where are we going with that then? Did Dano say his?
So then you have to ask questions like, well, is restricting me to a 10-round magazine an infringement? And now you have to kind of try to make the case, well, if I only have a 10-round magazine, is that infringing on my ability to protect my own life? And I would say it does, but other people would say it doesn't.
I would say it wouldn't back in like the day, whatever that was. But now that bad guys could very easily, and I'm sure we could do any amount of research and find out how many rounds a bad guy brings to and how many bad guys show up. And yeah, the concept that you have too many bullets on your person is somebody who's not aware of the actual situation in real life today. That's somebody who lives in some fantasy land and is using, you know, they're based on all their principles on cowboy movies where everybody just had 6 rounds and then all the bullets were all the guns were empty and it was only 2 participants, and you know,
and it only took 1 bullet to kill 1 person.
Yeah,
a bad guy. Well, the real question is, a bad guy always missed and a good guy always hit.
Right.
For instance, the New York Police Department, I heard a statistic today. New York Police Department, their hit ratio is 18%. So that means in a 10-round mag, you have a 1.8% chance of emptying that magazine and hitting your target.
Well, in a 10-round magazine, if they empty their target, they have a 1.8%.
Right. So restricting me to a 10-round magazine means you've only given me a 1.8% chance of actually being able to defend myself. So I would submit that restricting magazine capacity is an infringement on my right to protect myself. Luckily, I shoot better than most New York policemen, but you get the idea.
I got another one from Robbie out here on the Gun Channel side. It says infringement is a state mandated requirement to a given right.
Ooh, I like that.
Mandated requirement, like for a given right, maybe, or to a given right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it's artificial restrictions. That and they're not based on facts. That's the big thing, is you have these artificial restrictions where the statistics do not bear out the restriction.
All right. So according to the internet, the actual definition of infringement is the action of breaking the terms of a law, agreement, etc., a violation. And the other definition is the action of limiting or undermining something. Well, infringement of a right undermines your right, limits your right. Does that make sense?
Or limits. I like limits. That's a good.
Right.
It's almost like they picked that specific word because of what it means. Like they picked the one word that actually sums it all up, right? Interesting.
And I think it also spells it out when it refers to arms as in plural. And part of an arms is the munitions or the ammunition, meaning that there's going to be more than one. And some arms of that day just simply took one, and some arms were capable of having more than one barrel and thus firing more than one shot. So I would say it also extends to the ammunition. And it already clearly states that it's plural. And it's by association. Because you can't have an arm without ammunition. You certainly can't have arms, plural, without multiple.
Yeah, I just consider ammo and given. So when I hear the definite, when it says the right to bear arms, I just see that as backup guns and multiple guns and collections and arsenals and armories. So we'll just different there. I don't think the ammo is even part of it. It's just a given. You also have grips on there, and you also have a magazine.
No, an armory's sole purpose is to store all of your ammunition.
Well,
anyway, I was just trying to get to the point that Bill was making in regards to magazine limits.
Well, I think
State shall not infringe.
Tony,
well, look at here in the state of Connecticut. If you have a firearm, handgun, pistol, where the magazine is not part of the grip, that's considered an assault weapon, and you can't carry it. So that I consider that an infringement on my right to bear arms, based on where I stick the magazine. Come on.
Yep, that would be like a Tech 9, and that's only used for assault. So.
No, actually, there's pistols that people use to compete, like in Olympic competitions and stuff, that the magazine does not insert. You know, it inserts forward of the trigger. It does not insert inside the grip. So any firearm that has a detachable magazine that inserts, a handgun that has a magazine that does not insert in the grip of the gun is automatically an assault weapon in Connecticut. It's nuts.
Yeah, that's like a revisionist dictionary.
Right.
Going back and changing the meaning of words.
The 1022 Charger would fall under that.
Yeah.
All right. So I think Tony brought up a good point too. It's, where do you put it? Being an ass is easy. Being a good neighbor is a little harder. So I think that sums up what we were talking about a little bit earlier. And you're saying that you're confusing the word magazine with armory. Because, yeah, magazine is where you store stuff. Armory is where you put your munition, all of them. At least in the Army, we called armories where the machine guns were.
True.
I mean, it's also where the ammo was. I mean, right there, too. But anyway, yeah. I just know because I used to hang out a lot cleaning M60s. It was a lot of fun. All right, so I think we've solved Second Amendment again. So you're all welcome.
For this week, we have.
And we'll continue to nibble away at it. And we got plenty of other stuff to talk about today, so we'll keep moving along. We'll either go to good idea next, good idea, bad idea next, or one of the other topics. But before we do, we always take a break between the first and second segment of the show each day, so we can feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a place we built. It's a community. It's focused on firearms. We built it, so no issues with Facebook or YouTube and their giant corporations that are international and have kind of fly-by-night perceptions of firearms and all that. It's all us, made for shooters by shooters. So enjoy the place. And since it's completely membership driven, we like to feature one of the members over there every day here. And today it's going to be Garand Man, another active participant in the chats. I suspect I probably picked people this week that were just in the chat live when we were filling it out. So I don't think there's any more rhyme or reason to it this week, other than people that were active. And whenever you take,
he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Participated in the text chats for just as long, and every once in a while we'll actually jump into a online chat like we are right now. So it's nice to have him along. Shows that to be a member over at Gun Channels, it's from those who are on there like myself, very regularly, to those that just get on every once in a while. Anybody and everyone is welcome.
After talking to him, it wasn't, he didn't name his name Garand after the 100 Garand bar, but instead after the rifle. It's not after the candy bar, it's after the rifle.
Well, I assumed it was the rifle, being that this is not Candy Bar Channel.
Well, speaking of candy bar.
But that's another subject for another time.
Go for your alarm cycle. This is totally normal.
Totally normal.
This is when it normally happens. It's when everybody expects it to happen.
Exactly. So it's time for the tactical pop quiz of the day. So those of you over on YouTube and those of you over on Gun Channels, put your cursor down in the text box, limber up your fingers. Mr. G. Webbs, are you available to officiate today?
Yeah, I got it now, I think.
All right. We just started this thing, so I realize you're all still kind of getting in the swing of things. So it is a two-part answer, and both parts must be in the same line. So the question...
It's a range, and you need to have both ends of the range, right?
Correct. So this question's a little bit different, but it is absolutely firearms related. So here we go. What 6 years did John Milas first serve on the NRA Board of Directors? What 6 years did John Milas first serve on the NRA Board of Directors?
I think he calls it Milius. We're not even getting any answers. Nobody's even trying. Nothing on YouTube. Nothing. 1966 to 1970 is not right, and it's not 6 years. 1962 to 1968 is not correct.
I almost don't know what to say.
1984 is not correct.
But
not something
we have come close in the past to not being able to get a correct answer, and maybe this is the first. Maybe we don't have any real gun supporters out there. Maybe we just thought we did.
1962 to 1968, I think it was a little early. 1871 to 1878 is a little early.
Yeah.
84 to 90 is getting closer, but not a cigar. We do have free furky tacos. They're made out of tofurkey tacos. That's what they are. They're made out of tofu. The guy's name was Milius, the guy who directed the best movie ever made. 1964 to 1970 is not correct. 1985 to 1981 is not correct. I don't know. Are we just going to go on forever while people pick random 6 year spreads out of the...
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead, and unless somebody comes in at the last second with the correct answer, and I'm going to go ahead and put this one back in the hopper. And since we only have about 2 weeks worth of questions, that means this one's going to come up again real soon.
Okay, that's a good idea. Then people can be listening at home and maybe even get a chance to study it, answer it.
Again, so a question was, what 6 years did John Milas first serve on the NRA Board of Directors?
Almost
that
positive.
Question will come up in the next 2 weeks.
almost positive it's Milius, and you can go watch the movie. It used to be on Netflix. Milius, it was called, his last name, and he's the director of the best movie ever made. He directed Conan, a whole bunch of movies, and he was influential in Hollywood lots of ways. We've talked about him plenty of times on here, and we'll just keep going because everybody's just saying random dates now, and none of them are right.
Yep. So you can stop guessing because we're moving along with the show.
Here's a clue, though. You're all really far wrong. There was only like a couple that were even kind of close. So if that helps at all, why don't we talk about... Can't do the showdown, I don't think. I guess we could do it. We got 3 people now. You want to talk about Tennessee? You got anything to talk about with Tennessee?
Actually, I failed to do my due diligence today.
That's all good. We can do Tennessee tomorrow if you want.
Actually, let me see if I have what I need. Because Smeggy's not here to do what's currently on a happening, but I can pull it up. I should be able to pull up as soon as my little mouse wheel decides it wants to work. Come on, scroll, 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 scroll.
So while Dano's looking at whatever he's looking at, I'm going to let people know that we have a website, dailygunshow.com. It's where we send people each day when they win the daily pop quiz, so they can, well, when they win, so that we can, they can tally their win over there, so we can keep track. It's where we archive the shows, and we have links to people that have been guests, as well as the different things that we do to support the show, like our Patreon channel and the shirts and patches and things that we have for sale that help pay for the little bit of bills we do have here. And then ideally we'd start to bring in some money so we can start to grow the show and develop it a little bit more. So we encourage people to head over to thedailygunshow.com, check it out, follow some of the links we talk about at the beginning of each show, but we really would appreciate anybody who's got a moment to take to head over to the various platforms that we do post the show: YouTube, Instagram, gun channels, and iTunes. iTunes is definitely the most annoying of them because you have to download it, install it, find us, give us the review or whatever, and then probably uninstall it because it can be a pretty invasive piece of software on your machine if you're not using it. So we do appreciate it. Anybody, we've only got 1 comment over there, so it's not like a lot of people have taken time to do that, but we would appreciate it if people did. And again, on YouTube, the more subscribers we have, the closer we get to the 1,000 mark. That is kind of a waypoint or a measure that they use to give us access to some other features on the channel. So we do appreciate the people that take the time to do that. We really do want to see the show growing. We've been doing the show every single weekday for over a year. Can't think of if we missed one. Maybe we should make that as a pop quiz if we've ever missed a show. I think Bob and I might have missed 2, and the 2 of us were doing it ourselves. And I think that's it. With the rest of us here, we've done a pretty good job of having the show every single weekday for more than a year. There are nothing else out there that can do that except for syndicated shows that you're going to hear a commercial every 5 minutes or whatever. And, you know, we don't. We are trying to be supported by our audience. We're trying to grow an audience so that no one is burdened by it. Everybody can throw a buck in there so that you're getting whatever, a buck divided by 20. So is that 5 cents per show? Hopefully we're making it worth your while. And anyhow, that's what we like to take a second here while Daniel's digging through that to invite people over to our website and to use it as a way to jump around to those various platforms. And we ask you to take the time to leave us some feedback, commenting and giving us thumbs up and stuff. Both let us know you're there and gives us encouragement as human beings, but it really does work within the platforms to let the platform know that it's a show that has value and it's worth it for them to recommend it to other people like yourself or like somebody who might be interested in guns. And that's how we bring more people over with your help.
And I'm ready with Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. Now, we don't have Smeggy here this week for what's currently on the state and Senate floors in Tennessee, but we will do the state of the state. There is no state permit required to purchase long guns or handguns. There is no firearm registration. There are no assault weapons laws. Sounding good. There are no magazine capacity restrictions. There is no owner license registration. There is no carry permits for long guns, but there is for handguns. And in regards to open carry, it says yes for both handguns and long guns, but open carry of loaded handguns is permitted for those who have been issued a license to carry. Long guns may only be carried unloaded. So that it's not full open carry like we normally think of it. It's partial open carry is the best way I would describe it, or with a lot of contingencies. State preemption of local restrictions, yes. NFA items are not restricted. It is a shall certify state within 15 days, which is great. I'm in a state that we have to wait 90 or more. They also respect the peaceable journey laws for traveling from state to state with your firearms. And there is also no duty to retreat when using deadly force, as long as you are acting in a lawfully and in a place where you have a right to be. And there is no background checks for private sales. And that overall is pretty good, but I was a little bit surprised that there was no full open carry. Like in Kentucky, and there is open carry there, and you don't need a permit to open carry. At least I always associate open carry in my mind, incorrectly so, that if there's open carry, you don't necessarily have to have a permit. You just have to be of legal age and have met the legal qualifications. But in Tennessee, you also have to have a permit to open carry. So that is the state of Tennessee.
Did they say anything about castle law and whether the car was considered castle?
Let's see. Okay, as of July 1st, 2014, due to the enhanced castle doctrine law, a person may keep a loaded handgun or long gun in their private vehicle without a permit.
Cool.
I don't know if that answers your question directly or not.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And a lot of states have open carry, but with permit. Connecticut's the same way.
Mm-hmm. But that is our state of Tennessee. So where we want to move on to next?
I think Matt found an interesting piece of information about Milius. It says, an avid gun collector, he insisted that part of his payment for writing the movie Jeremiah Johnson in 1972 would be, like, part of his payment was in antique weapons. So that's pretty cool. Probably a good investment too.
Yeah.
What was considered an inexpensive old gun in 1972, I suspect, would be worth more today.
Yeah, I would think a lot more.
So, gun shop of the day. We don't have one in here. So, guess what? As our guest host today, or our guest host, Bill, you get to do our gun shop of the day. Do you have one handy? One that you can mention at your favorite shop? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I think you guys might have done it already because I missed a couple of weeks. But here in Connecticut, we have a gun shop called the Newington Gun Exchange.
How's it? What is it called?
The Newington Gun Exchange.
Okay.
And what's
I'm glad you mentioned that one, Rick. If I could just interrupt you for a moment, because the two you sent in are for the gun shops on Wednesday and Thursday of this week.
That's not Rick. This is Cycle Camp.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong guy.
Yeah, I only sent one in.
my bad.
Connecticut, not Rhode Island, right?
Yep.
You're all the same, aren't you?
All those states look the same to us. People west.
All those New Englanders, we look the same, we sound the same. You hardly tell us apart.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm sharing here. So I think I found the website.
Unless you're from Massachusetts, then you sound strange.
Hey, my dad's from Massachusetts, but that's okay. He's a transplant.
Are there a lot of gun shops in Connecticut?
I wouldn't say a lot, and the sad thing is there are not a lot of gun shops that deal in a lot of used guns. And that's why the Newington Gun Exchange is such a cool place, because they have a really large, it's a fairly small shop, but it is just packed to the rafters with guns. And they do a lot of used guns. They do a lot of consignment guns and a lot of milsurps. In fact, I get a lot of my the one that I did the Arasaka that I did the new furniture on. I got the base sportsterized guns at Newington Gun Shop, and they just have a really good selection of guns, new guns, used guns, older stuff, milsurps, just all over the place. It's a great place.
Do they offer any sort of services?
Yeah, they do have regular gunsmithing services there as well, and they also, if you are a regular buyer, you can get discounts on stuff that you buy. I commonly get 10 or 15% off the top on a lot of guns, so it's pretty cool. Now that what you're showing now is Hoffman's. That's a little different.
Oh, that is a different one.
Hoffman's is a great store, but they deal primarily in new guns and accessories. It's a huge store. But Newington is smaller, and it's a little homier. The guys they're very knowledgeable. They're very good with their customers. They're not snooty tooty guys. Just a great bunch of people.
Right on. Looks like good shop.
Yeah. And you love the Teddy Roosevelt there in the window, you know, softly and carry a big stick and all that good stuff.
Yep.
I like the kind of shop where they got all the guns on a rack like that, where you can look at them, fiddle around, especially if.
Yeah, well, you see, and you see right there on that picture, all of the milsurps right in there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, on the floor. It's just great. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, if you got to wait for somebody behind the counter for something, you don't have to just stand there being goofy. You can look at something. I like it. Or if you want to.
Yeah, most of the gun shops in my area put them behind the counter, so you got to wait on somebody.
Yeah. For like $100 gun, it's like, come on, just put the
right.
Nope. The only thing that's locked up on theirs is handguns.
Can you just walk right up to this wall to these shotguns too? Then doesn't look like.
Oh yeah, pick them up and fire one of them up.
Oh, okay, great. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
A lot of shotguns and a lot of decoys. So is there a lot of duck hunting up there or something?
Yeah, there's a lot of hunting up here, a lot of waterfowl and stuff. Because you know we're close to the ocean and stuff, and got the river and quite a few lakes.
Right on. Well, thanks for stepping up to the plate there, and we're happy to talk about a new shop. I don't know if we had talked about that one before. At least we never looked at it for sure.
So let's go ahead and move into tactical tidbits.
Okay.
And today being Wednesday, the 17 rules of a gunfight according to Tactical Response. Today is number 16. But before we do that, we'll take a step back and say, what was number 15? 15 was your number one option for personal security is a lifelong commitment to avoidance, deterrence, and de-escalation. That was number 15 yesterday. Today, number 16, weapons should be hardy, not decorative. And that is from Miyamoto Musashi. I know I'm slaughtering the name, but that's the best I can do. And again, today's rule is weapons should be hardy, not decorative. And when I read that, I think of, we all have, well, I think most of us have in our mind, when if I were to say an AR dressed up like a Christmas tree, that would bring a certain picture to mind. At least that's what it does in my mind when I read that rule of number 16 of a gunfight. So tomorrow will be number 17 and the last rule of a gunfight.
I feel like we'll all be gunfighters tomorrow. We'll all have graduated.
Then after that, we'll take a little break, and then we'll pick up again on another topic in the tactical response, fighting pistol. So, what do we got next?
I think we should do the 9 rules from Book of the Five Rings. If you're going to keep doing the thing of the day, I'll throw them in there. move the hashtag Daily Gun Show showdown to tomorrow or next couple of days or something. So when Smeggy's back. Yeah.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea. Since it's kind of Smeggy's thing, he ought to at least be here to vote.
And then we did that.
Especially since I can't vote because I actually submitted an entry. So.
Well, that doesn't matter. You're all going to lose. We have the winning entries. No, it's already been submitted.
It's not fair.
Go look at
Life
it.
is not fair.
There's a hands down winner if you go look at the Instagram feeds. So we have a myth of the week, but we got nothing filled in there. So did we come up with a myth of the week, or maybe we should ask the audience? Is there a gun myth that we can debunk?
Well,
gun myth.
Aren't all Connecticutans anti-black rifle? Is that a myth?
Well, I don't know. I own 3 of them.
Well, then we just busted it.
I think the majority are, though. I'm surrounded.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
you know, that would work so much better if you had a voice meter.
Oh, come on. Now you're trying to sell your free voice meters to everybody. No, that's the bee's knees. Anyway, so I think that gun shop, when we were looking at the pictures there, one of them was a picture of a whole bunch of magazine wells that looked kind of like a lot of black rifles to me. Some of them might have been a little tan or green, but they were, for the most part, black.
Yeah, they have pre-bans and the 22 versions that are not banned in Connecticut.
Oh, is that a lot of? Well, no, I saw like M1s and stuff. Something.
Well, M1s aren't black rifles. Nobody cares. Okay. They have wood, right? If it has wood, it's good.
Yeah, if it has wood, how could it be violent? Come on, those have never.
Right.
So, like AK-47s are all good to go, right? Because most of them are wood, the older ones.
Well, unless they got the little bits that protrude out, wood ones are pretty calm, pretty safe. SKS.
Yeah, black mags are bad.
So is that our gun myth? That people in Connecticut aren't into guns? Or you're saying that is kind of the myth?
Actually, the statistic, I think, in Connecticut is 1 out of every 20 persons owns a gun in Connecticut.
And you got a pretty high population, I suspect.
Yep. Yeah, we're pretty large.
So
we wouldn't want facts and stuff to get in the way of, you know, bad gun laws and things.
Let's see, what comes out of Connecticut? Colt?
Insurance.
Ruger?
Nuclear submarines from Electric Boat.
Yep. New England Arms. It's also based in Connecticut.
I've been there a long time ago.
No, Connecticut, I got to look at a map. It's north of New York, right? You're on the way up to Maine?
Yep.
Yes.
It's where
we're halfway between
like
New York and Boston.
Okay, both sides up.
Yeah, halfway between New York and Boston.
Okay, so I was thinking, I guess, of Maine, and somebody had said all the people from Massachusetts are going up to Maine and turning it all from being a bunch of rugged self-individualists to a bunch of city folks. So Connecticut, was it ever? I mean, it's always just been city folks, people that live between Boston and New York?
Yeah, we're all moving into Vermont.
Oh, okay, that's your escape route?
Yeah, well, except for me, I'm probably going to go to South Carolina where where it's cheaper to live and it's not cold.
Now, I have a question, and it's not a question of you or anything you have. So I want you to realize that before I ask the question.
Oh, I don't care.
Well, I do. When was it that Connecticut came up with their black gun registration, and how did that go?
It was right after Sandy Hook.
And what was from the state's point of view, what was their estimated compliance rate?
Oh God, I have no idea. You got me on that one. I bought mine the month before the ban went into place, just as a middle finger to the state. So I actually had no desire to own an AR.
Other people.
Yeah. But I would say the compliance rate is probably nowhere as what it ought to have been. I think there are quite a few people that said, screw you, I'm not registering. And in fact, we have actually had a couple of guys jailed after the fact, where they came in like on domestics and stuff, and they went through the guy's gun stuff and found unregistered magazines or unregistered assault weapons, and they tack that on as a charge as well. It's very rarely that it's a primary charge, but it's one of those, if they decide they want to throw the book at you, they get you for that as well.
Right. It's an easy way to stack on charges, stack on time.
Yeah. But my personal opinion is they probably had less than 50% of the people who actually had them actually registered them. But shh, don't tell anybody.
And there's no way to know for sure, and that's a great thing.
Yep. Well, Connecticut has had firearm registration for many, many years. So when you filled out paperwork on buying a firearm in Connecticut, you also filled out one that went to the state. And you can actually go, there's websites where you can go in and say, tell me what you think you have on me. And you can find out what guns they think are registered to you. Because the no gun registration thing only applies at the federal level, not at the state level.
Mm-hmm. But if you sell a firearm, let's say on Gunbroker, they would have no knowledge whether you sold it or not. Is that correct?
Now they would. See, that was one of the things that happened as a result of Sandy Hook. The big 2013 gun laws, you now have to register every sale, even between individuals.
Okay, but prior to that, they would have not known.
That's true. Absolutely true. So any guns you brought into the state or anything you bought prior to that, obviously they never knew about long guns because long guns were not required prior to that. Handguns, obviously, you've got the federal paperwork. But yeah, they as of 2013, they had to PA 13.3. As a result of that, we now have to register every gun sale, even if I sell something to my father. It's got to be registered with the state. Not a happy state.
Well, I feel like we got two state of the states almost.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
It works.
Well, when we have a special guest, we got to take advantage of the opportunity.
You know it. Getting all the meat on the bones. So why don't we go to the gun movie / gun history, since the gun movie is all about the gun history. So every day we try to feature a movie that has something to do with guns, something you might not have seen in a while, or if you're a youngin listening to the show, something you ain't seen yet. So today it is in memory of this date in history that Daniel mentioned earlier. The movie is The Longest Day. Y'all seen it?
1962. And it was events of D-Day told on a grand scale from both the Allied and German points of view. In case you haven't by chance seen it or were not necessarily aware of it, there were a huge number of stars in here. John Wayne, Robert Ryan, Richard Burton, amongst many others. Henry Fonda. Trying to find the full list here.
A lot.
Eddie Albert. Yeah. And a lot of them, the faces I recognized, red buttons, but I couldn't necessarily remember the name. Sean Connery. Can you imagine that? Sean Connery was in there. He was Private Flanagan. Henry Fonda. I mean, I can just keep going and going. It's a very long list. Robert Mitchum. And again, maybe for some of you younger folks, these names may seem totally foreign, but yeah, I already mentioned John Wayne.
So a little interesting aside is everybody else in that movie got paid $25,000. John Wayne got paid $250,000 because the producer called him poor one time. When
called him what?
made fun of him when John Wayne was creating the movie The Alamo, because it took a lot of money and he lost money on it. So the guy was giving him shit when John Wayne was making The Alamo. So when he wanted John Wayne to be in his movie, he insisted on $250,000, 10 times more than all the other actors.
Good for him.
Well, but that really doesn't put it to the director, as it really just creates potential irritation points between the actors.
I don't know. Never.
I mean, because many of these actors were big time during that time of the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Mitchum was very popular at that time.
Yes. And for him to get 10 times what Mitchum got?
Well, he was John Wayne, though. Come on. John Wayne.
Well, I understand that, but it was not a John Wayne movie. And that's one of the things that makes it unusual for a movie that just happened to have John Wayne in it. Usually they were all movies about John Wayne. And this is one of the few that are not that way at all.
The movie is about D-Day and stuff that happens before. They try to summarize it. It's kind of historical, in that I think it's not just a story. It's definitely not like a love story or nothing. It's just it's not a documentary, and it's not using just a bunch of war footage. It's got real actors and stuff in it, and it's definitely got actual equipment, uniforms, stuff. It was made in '62, so just a few years after the war, really. All that stuff was real. And most of those people were, if not involved in the war, very aware of it, right? So I think as far as that's concerned, it'd be a lot different than somebody trying to make a World War II movie today, which would just be, some character of World War II.
Yeah, that still was, that all those, whether it be uniforms or other things, were still in large abundance. In 1962, they weren't rare. They still had them, whether it be the rifles, all the various armaments. It just you could get as much as you could afford to buy or rent. So
I think it'd be neat to watch this movie with the DVD extras, or whatever that's called, where like somebody who knows what's going on is describing things, because I bet you there's all kinds of cool stories about that one.
Oh yeah. And the other thing I liked about it is it showed, even if it was just a 15-second little clip, little tiny things that were actually a much bigger story, but they didn't have time to go in, like the fake armor, the fake divisions, and things that were just like mock tanks and things like that. Just little tidbits of the big giant story.
The ghost armies.
Yeah. The little fake paratroopers, the Ruperts.
I'm looking to try to figure out more information about. I don't think John Wayne's a dick. I think he was trying to be a dick to Zanuck, the director. But I'm wondering. I doubt he needed the $250,000. So I'm wondering what he did with them. Seeing if maybe there was something out here on the web that would talk about that aspect of it. I didn't find anything other than basically everybody just quoting, mentioning the fact that it was retribution for the guy screwing with him when he was a failure, when Alamo, John Wayne's movie The Alamo, was a failure. So he was just pissed. But it says here, which I thought was interesting, I never knew before, former President Dwight D. Eisenhower was considered for the role of himself in the film, and he indicated his willingness to do it. However, makeup artists couldn't make him appear young enough to play himself. So that's kind of interesting that Eisenhower almost was in that movie as himself. How cool would that have been?
Yeah. That, even if it was, let's say, a recording.
We survived.
Whoa, you're right.
And that's what you get with pop-up messages on
What?
imfdb.org.
What was that about? You said that I needed to get what kind of mixing panel? What?
No, it's not the mixing panel, it's the pop-up message.
Okay.
I was looking up weapons on the longest day, and all of a sudden a message just popped out.
It's not the mixing panel, it's the mixer.
Okay, well, Smythe.
It also says that when that guy who directed Longest Day, he ended up having to pay for most of it out of his own pocket because he spent all his money from the studio on Cleopatra a couple of years earlier. Yeah, it's interesting. So that's one of the things we do is we talk about a gun-related movie every day. Today is the anniversary of D-Day. I'm going to take a moment and thank everyone who was involved with that, and obviously the people that pay the ultimate price at that point for keeping the world free. And since we talk about a movie, obviously trivial compared to that, we're talking about a movie that was made in memoriam of that event. So I highly encourage you watching it. Super long, it's really neat, and I can't give it enough thumbs up. It's one of my favorite movies, probably, just because it's an excellent example of a war movie.
Did we cover or move the good idea versus bad idea?
Oh, I think I just crossed it out. So let's go do it. So that was kind of gun history and our movie of the day, and we'll move to our good idea, bad idea. And today it's publicizing your gun hobby. I'm gonna go with good idea. How about Cycle? What about you?
Well, that was actually the reason I wanted to get on here, and I'll just tell you a quick story. So,
nope. Way it works.
Nope,
you guys,
nope.
bad idea first.
Bad idea.
Okay, Dano.
Good idea.
Okay, now we can elaborate. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
That's all right. So way back in the old days, when there were still CB radio and guys like me used to hang around talking on the CB instead of talking on gun websites, I ran into a guy on the CB and we got to yakking, and we had a lot of stuff in common. Like we both, enjoyed firearms, and we both like music and all that kind of stuff. And he invited me to come over to his house and take a look at his collection. So I went over to his house and took a look at his gun collection and stuff. And he went on vacation a couple of weeks later and got robbed. And so, of course, the police were at my house the very next day because I had evidence and interest in guns and had been at his house. And after that, I was a lot more careful about who I told about my gun hobby, because I had that bad experience.
So are you saying that they checked you out as being a potential thief?
Oh, yeah. They brought me down to the station and questioned me. They thought that I had something to do with the robbery. Which I didn't, but it didn't make any difference.
Now, I'm curious. Did you immediately say, I want a lawyer, or what did you do?
No, I let it ride. I understood why the guy would feel that way because I had been at his house just a few days before, and I knew he was going on vacation, and so it was certainly a reasonable assumption on his part and the police officer's part, and I knew that in the end it would all get worked out.
And how long were you at the station?
Oh, God, hours. Yeah.
Now, when you weren't involved in it, other than saying, where were you and can anybody vouch for you, what else is there really to say?
No, they it's just one of those kind of things where they just keep asking you the same stuff over and over again. And, did you say this? Were you actually there? It was quite intimidating.
Is it movie-like? I mean, because that's how you're kind of describing it.
Yeah, it actually kind of was. It's the only time anything like that, well, other than they get busted for, hot wiring a car one time. But it really was that's the only experience I've ever had that was anything like that. And it was very much like what you would see in the movies where they were trying to sweat you, whether you're, you were right or wrong. They were really just trying to make it stick. It was pretty intimidating.
That's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I was probably in my early 30s, I guess.
Now that you bring that up, I don't really think about it, but I had an incident that was pretty similar to that, and I don't think it had anything to do with my promoting of firearms, but that makes me think that maybe we should, the two of us on a chat like this out of nowhere had that situation. I'm sure that means other people might be have had it or have had it happen or be interested, since it seems like it's got to be happening often if two of us have had that happen. So yeah, it'd be an interesting topic for a future show.
Yeah, you sure you don't want to change your answer?
No, because I was going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, because honestly, I don't ever think about that. And that doesn't change my mind at all, at one little bit. If anything, I think it strengthens it. Because
I'm just more careful about, when I know I'm with kindred spirits, I'm okay. But when it's a cold case, when it's with somebody I don't really know, I tend to be a lot more hesitant.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's a situation that we have to live under as being second-class citizens in this country. We don't have the right to express ourselves in our Second Amendment advocacy.
Because, so what is infringement of the First? I'm just playing ball with the topic here.
Well, the First doesn't say that. A lot of people misinterpret that. The First just says the federal government doesn't have the right to restrict your speech. Doesn't say that the public doesn't have the right to restrict your speech.
Well, who is the public? Who is federal?
Well, that's easy. A government entity is not allowed to, but private entities are.
A private detective or a private investigator is not allowed to do that, unless we're using private in two different ways.
Well, let's use a university, for instance. That's not state funded. I can never remember college versus university. One of them is state funded, the other one didn't. But they have the right to ban free speech. They have the right to decide who gets to talk and who doesn't.
Damn it! Is that the difference between college and university? University means it's a communist, and college means it's capitalist.
No.
Oh, damn. I never even thought about that.
But private versus governmental, governmentally funded, yes.
Well, that's what I just said. Okay, I didn't know.
But a college is not necessarily. A college can be federally funded, state funded, or private.
Oh, okay.
And the same with the university. It can be private or state government funded. But it can't be both.
Right. No,
but my point is the First Amendment only guarantees that the government cannot restrict people's speech. It doesn't say that private entities don't have the right to restrict speech or try not to. And that's a common misinterpretation.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're on their property, you have to abide by their rules. That I get. No different than if somebody came on your property, they have to abide by your rules because it's your property.
Sure. Yep.
Property.
No different.
So we're talking about publicizing, though, right?
Well, it's like,
I guess I was thinking.
So it's like YouTube. YouTube has the right, as a private entity, they can restrict any kind of speech they want.
Yes, they can.
You can't stand up and say, "Hey, I have the right to free speech." YouTube, you can't stop me from saying this. That's absolutely false. That has nothing to do with the First Amendment.
Very true.
Okay, but anyway, back to publicizing your gun hobby. We're saying it's a bad idea because people would then know you're a gun owner. I'm saying it's a good. I think that's what you're saying. At least one aspect of it, or one element of it. And I'm thinking that an important element of it is, as we go into the gun closet, so to speak, and hide our activities and only talk about it amongst ourselves, then we're in the shadows, and they can the antis play off of that, and they say, oh, these people lurk around the shadows. They only go to their little creepy gun shows and their creepy gun ranges where they practice murder and stuff. And if we're not out there living our lives, then they get to say that because we're not there involved in their conversation. And so I think that's important. And then also, if we're not sharing what we're doing because we're afraid to share, period, then our stuff doesn't develop. Our stuff develops in slow motion compared to everybody else who gets to do their stuff in broad daylight. So we don't develop, we don't evolve the same as everybody else. If we've got to use fringe little pieces, we don't have to use gun channels. We choose to use gun channels. But if we were forced to use places like gun channels, we'd be crippled. We wouldn't have the audiences and the tools available to us on the YouTubes and the Facebooks. So I think by sharing our gun hobby, I mean, it's something I always talk about on those platforms and stuff, we're doing a service to the future and ourselves. I almost think it's not quite mandatory, but it should be commended when the individual shares that particular element of their hobby, entertainment, life, whatever. Heck, I built a website so people did.
Yeah. I think as long as you safeguard, keep in mind who you're talking to, the audience. As long as you keep that in mind, that like any hobby, whether it's wood carving or whatever, you want to certainly be interested in, is there anyone else also interested in this? And the only way to do that is to share it. With in mind, who are you talking to? If you know this person is a flaming liberal, then you best not mention it.
Well, that's a good point too. There's a way to publicize your gun hobby, and then there's a way to publicize your gun hobby, I guess. So you can publicize your gun hobby. So, you can say as a gun owner, like you go to the range and you post some videos on a YouTube account, or you could publicize your gun hobby by putting stickers and stuff all over your car and little signs up on the front of the house, and your signature and every email is gun related, and you're always wearing a gun related t-shirt. There's, I guess, that I would go more along with Cycle saying that I don't see any need to necessarily make your first impression with everyone you meet. I'm a crazy
right
enthusiast into the guns, and that's the first thing you're going to know about me no matter what, because sometimes it's just not necessary, and sometimes it is. If you got to have to do business with somebody who's a jerk, sometimes in this country we have to do business with idiot jerks. So if that's going to cause conflict, then no need in creating conflict before you even open your mouth.
Well, here's another example. Just recently here in Connecticut, we had a gal that had stickers on her car about her advocacy for the Second Amendment and concealed carry and all that kind of stuff. She came out of a store and there was a guy waiting at her car to harass her about the stickers that she had on her car.
That's kind of cool. So what kind of stickers were these?
She belonged to Connecticut Citizens Defense League, the CCDL, which I'm also a member of, and I also have stickers on my van.
So not like a driver has less than $20 worth of ammunition or
no. No,
so that's just interesting. See, I mean, I guess I would assume somebody who puts those kind of stickers on their car is looking for that interaction. I mean, maybe not a particularly odd one, but for somebody to start a discussion, why else would you put the stuff all over your car?
Well, the guy didn't hang around her car to discuss it with her. He hung around her car to harass her.
Well, okay, in that particular
difference,
nobody wants to be harassed. But if it can get a conversation going, I'm assuming that's why people put them on their cars. They want people behind them to see what the hell's on there, and people in parking lots to see it as they drive by or whatever. I mean, that crazy guy, if I had shit on my car and that crazy guy waited around, it wouldn't be quite the same situation, but if I had the time, it'd be interesting. Put the video on, or put the camera on video and get a free video out of it. I definitely don't want to, I said it was a good idea. I am less enthusiastic about putting a bunch of bumper stickers all over your car. I just don't like bumper stickers all over cars. I think it's dumb.
I guess, and I was thinking, not in terms of, because I am against putting stickers on your car for other reasons, but as far as sharing it with people one-on-one.
Well,
and if it's somebody you don't know,
publicizing is publicizing. How can you be
one-to-one?
Talk to people about it and then be against putting a bumper sticker on your car?
Well, okay,
because
you know what I mean?
Publicize.
That sounds kind of contradictory to me.
No, I don't want somebody breaking into my car thinking they can find a free gun.
There's levels of publicizing. I just don't like stickers on my car. I just don't like it. They fall off. I would say if you're going to put like a nice metal magnet or a license plate frame or something that doesn't going to turn shitty looking. I live in Arizona, remember. Bumper stickers last about 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. So it's really the media more than anything else.
Yeah, I just think it makes cars look stupid, and I don't know who's behind me. And there's some times where if somebody's having a bad day and guns are like the cause of it, I don't need to be a dick. I mean, I don't like the fact that I can't push that message to where I want. Now, if I build a website or a YouTube video or an entire website devoted to letting people have conversations about guns, and then somebody comes along and opens it or goes to that address and looks, and then they have a fit, well, that's on them. But again, a T-shirt or a bumper sticker, that's me pushing it around. And if that person was like kind of on the fence and then something, I just don't need to be randomly throwing a message out that I'm worried about. Now, if it was a message like Doberman's, I don't care. Doberman's a Doberman. But a gun, I think that's an important message, and I just don't want to randomly throw it around. I'd like to.
So if you guys are pro bumper sticker, where do you sit on the sign out front, the front of the door? Instead of ADT, it says house protected by Smith & Wesson.
No, that's definitely dumb. Again, you're not there. Who's driving by and looking at your house? I can't see the point of that very much. If you live,
I guess I just don't see the difference between that and the bumper sticker.
I don't think there is a difference. I think it's exactly the same. You're basically publicizing it you're publicizing it 24/7 without any control. I think there's levels.
Indiscriminately, I think is the word you're looking for.
Thank you. Exactly. There's ways you can do it where you control the media and the message, and then there's ways where it's indiscriminate completely, and there's no point in that. I just don't see that as being, unless it's something like number one, you got the freedom of choice to do that, so do it if you want. I don't care. And there needs to be a certain amount of people that just do whatever the hell they want. That's how the world works. But I think if you had like Smeggy's hunting cabin up in the middle of nowhere and you probably got to drive down like a 200-yard driveway, then go nuts. Put all the like protected by Smith & Wesson and stuff you want, because that's your own place and nobody's really stumbling across that necessarily.
Yeah, I just think it's asking for trouble in most situations, where in a personal conversation, I literally get to control the narrative. With a sticker or a sign, I don't get to control it. Somebody's going to see it when I'm not there, and I can't control it.
Everest makes a good point there too. And there's a little something to be said for if somebody's wrong and you've got one of the four, I honk for, or I return fire if you honk or something, bumper stickers that was popular at the last gun show. And then that guy's running around like being a Yahoo in his truck that has the same bumper sticker as you. Now you've just made yourself the same as that guy inadvertently. And I'm sure that's a very random thing, but yeah. You do identify your car when you put bumper stickers all over the back. That's for damn sure. All right, well, so, do we solve that one, or anybody change their mind? Maybe we should do that at the end of these to change their mind.
I'm good.
Well, I think we've solved it. Now everyone has to publicize their gun hobby, so you're welcome. Did we ever come up with a myth of the week, or did we do the myth of the week? It was Connecticut. So we did that one, and we did the gun shop. I think we finished the show. So it went a little bit quicker because Bob wasn't here. We didn't have to wake him up a bunch.
I do have Bob's part taken care of, so just let me know. Right
on. So I will offer up a pretty good news. We have a couple of things of good news. These are in regards to the Old West Guns playing card deck, the project I'm working on over on the Kickstarter right now. It has reached the third of the stretch goals, so we are working on PVC patches right now, and I think so that means that everybody who's already getting something over there, already getting a deck or two or whatever, they'll automatically be stickers, yes, and patches included. So no additional charge or anything, no additional charge for shipping. as the quantity of cards go up, I built it so that there's some room there. The price of the cards go down because I'm buying more of them, and I'm passing that on along. And now we're being able to get the PVC patches. So I'm working on the artwork now with the place, and we'll show those updates as soon as we have them. But even better news than that is I got off the phone a little bit earlier today, and we are definitely going to be able to make the cards here in the USA. Talked to the new place in Texas, and we're not quite there, but we're almost there. Very, very close to being there. So I can all but guarantee these, well, I will guarantee these cards will be made in the USA. And I got even better news than that, but I'll hold off on that so that I don't just like throw all the good news down here right today. So nothing but good news on the cards. Very much looking forward to seeing these made now in Texas. So that means I don't know where the paper comes from. Let's assume the paper comes to the United States. It gets shipped from Oregon or wherever they make paper over to Texas, where I doubt they make paper, and then gets printed into these cards and then gets shipped out to everybody with all U.S. resources and labor, and digging it. Very much liking that idea. So at this point, we're at $8,500. Even the freaking taxes stay here. So that entire $8,500 that came from like 260 people's pockets is just going to get distributed over to other people in the United States pockets. So thank you very much for that. I think that's awesome. I'm always scared when I do a project like this. Well, I've done it a few times where it gets into this kind of money, but I just, I hate the idea of creating something like that and then having to make it into China, which kind of sucks because I think the quality suck here. But then just thinking about the thousands of dollars that we're throwing over there. So really stoked about that. I hope everybody else is digging that. And again, please share the decks. I'm sure most of the people that are listening to us now have already participated if they're planning to, but please share the project. I keep talking about the power of the social media is the individuals. So all those individual efforts, you never know who's going to see that. And now that they'll see that they're made in the USA, they might decide to buy a couple as gifts. So just all great. So really looking forward to it. Like I say, I've got a couple more exciting, some exciting news about the decks that I'm wanting to tell you, but I'm not, because I'm going to try to hold it off so it's not all at one time. And with that, I think we can end episode number 327. That means we'll be back here tomorrow for 328. It'll be Wednesday. We'll be talking about CCW without a gun. We'll be talking about the entertainment topic, 10 most commonly used guns in movies. Then we'll be doing something where we used to do the tactical quiz. We'll be doing our gun shop of the day and all the other things we do on a daily basis, as well as, I guess that's it. So we will see you back here at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific. And thanks, Michael Camp, for jumping in at the last minute like that. I'm not sure if you're a Patreon supporter or not. I don't keep track of everybody's individual names. Plus, I don't really know what your real name is. So thanks for jumping in, though, from the Gun Channel side. And we did get a lot of feedback that people want you to replace either Smeggy or Bob. So,
oh, no one could replace Smeggy. I am a Patreon supporter, just in case you're interested in.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's how I got the link.
Oh, you did put it out on Patreon. Okay, cool. Well,
No, you did.
I just sent them a link on Gun Channel.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I got the link you sent me. Yeah.
Unless there's anything else, gentlemen, you want to promote or?
Let me throw this out there. I know that we cover these topics. If you're listening to the show and you're like, what is wrong with these guys? They didn't present this very well at all. We don't present it. We bring up topics. We're just a bunch of regular people. We hang out over on Gun Channels, which is a forum. It's not a forum. It's a community. There's other things there besides forums, but it's a place where we can all chat, and we end up chatting about things. And I personally do not like to just be led by the big media and have them tell us what to talk about. So we kind of deliberately don't talk about news of the day. We just get together, we talk about firearms. And since none of us are experts, none of us are striving to be your guru or anything, we are just simply creating a conversation. We're trying to promote the concept of keeping communication lines open so that we master these social media platforms, which are there to master. 6-year-old kids use them, utilize them well. We ought to be able to do that as grown adults who grew up through the whole existence of the internet. We should be able to master these elements so that when Bloomberg pays people millions of freaking dollars, tens of thousands of dollars per marketing agency, so that he can buy every marketing agency in an area so that he can come in with his ballot initiatives, and dupe the people in the middle who don't really care about guns one way or the other. We are the ones that combat that as individuals, like they did in Nevada. Millions of dollars from Bloomberg, tens of thousands of dollars was all that was available to the individuals in Nevada who basically all but defeated that, got it right down to a margin, and Bloomberg's money and efforts were able to defeat that. But that's what we're here for, so that we can create those channels, and use this time to master them, to stretch our legs and to understand the tools and how to use them. So when we need them, we have them. So again, I appreciate everybody that's watching the show. And with that, we will see you tomorrow.
All right. We like to end every show with a quote. And today I have one from Clint Smith. And it is, "Don't shoot fast, shoot good." And with that, I want to thank you for listening, and please be prepared.
The guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.